The nitrogen cycle. So the nitrogen cycle is actually critical for human life to exist. This is because most beings derive their nutrients from plants, and plants must have nitrogen-rich soil in order to grow. As the population increases, more and more plants must be grown. The issue is that soils are not containing enough nitrogen. Another problem is that too much nitrogen in specific areas can poison water sources. Human babies are especially sensitive to an excess of nitrogen, causing the restriction of oxygen flow throughout the body. Now, the overview of the nitrogen cycle, the first step is fixation, and that is the process of making the nitrogen usable by plants. Bacteria change the nitrogen into ammonia. Next is nitrification. This is the process in which the ammonium gets changed into nitrates, also by bacteria, and nitrates is the form which the plants can absorb. The third step is assimilation. This is how the plants get the nitrogen. They absorb the nitrates from the soil into their roots, and then the nitrogen gets used in amino acids, nucleic acids, and chlorophyll. The fourth step is ammonification. This is the decaying process. When a plant or animal dies, decomposers like fungi and bacteria turn the nitrogen back into ammonium so we can re-enter the nitrogen cycle. Denitrification is the next step. Extra nitrogen in the soil gets put back into the air. There are special bacteria that perform this task as well. Like I mentioned before, the problems with the nitrogen cycle is that we have nitrogen running off into our water sources, and also in certain areas there's not enough nitrogen for crops to grow, so they fail, meaning we don't have enough food. There is a man-made process that assists in making more nitrogen from plants. It's called the Haber-Bosch process, and I'll explain it to you. Basically, it's kind of the nitrogen cycle, but man-made. The air is taken in, like the N2H2 gas is fed into the compressor, and then that gas is catalyzed by an iron-based catalyst, and then it's pressurized and it goes into a heat exchange chamber, and in that chamber heat is added, and then after that the ammonium, which is in a gas state, goes into another compressor where it's immediately cooled, and then liquid ammonium comes out, which is added to fertilizers. So yes, this process does give us the results we're hoping for, but that ammonium is super concentrated, meaning that a lot of runoff does occur when it is added to fertilizers. Another thing is that this process is very energy consuming. Currently, 2% of the fossil fuels goes towards the aid of nitrogen fixation. So yes, there's a lot of flaws in this design, but we still get the result we would want. The thing that I would change is make the whole design smaller, because we're doing it on a much smaller scale, less industrial. Another thing that I would add is solar panels, because it does eat up a lot of fossil fuels, and I want it to be more environmentally friendly, because that's the goal in the first place, is to help the environment. Another thing that I would do is add a lot less of the catalyst, because the catalyst is what speeds up the reaction. If there's less catalyst, the reaction won't be as rushed, meaning that the ammonium, there won't be so much of it and it won't be so concentrated, meaning there'd be less runoffs. So all that being said, I know this design is still very expensive and not very accessible to regular students. Like, I wouldn't want them going into this room because of like them being exposed to the excess of nitrogen, but it's just a design concept.